I'm Todd Sampson, adventurer and human guinea pig.
Wow, I feel really sick to my stomach.
And I'm on a mission to investigate some of the most extraordinary people on the planet.
That's a workout.
To see what we can all learn from their lives.
Holy whoa, that is a fire!
To try and understand them, I'll not only walk in their shoes,
We gotta go.
I'll hack into their world using science as my guide. This series is a quest to explore our human potential and to ultimately prove the mind and body can adapt to almost anything. In this episode, I'm in Mosul, Iraq.
The stress levels are going through the roof.
To try and understand how the human body adapts to the intense stress of war.
Wow.
It will be a crazy journey to a living hell.
It's a frightful place.
But I'll also be inspired by a team of volunteers.
You can't see somebody suffer and not impact you.
And I'll share the soaring highs and devastating lows of a truly special brotherhood.
No one wins in war. No other human endeavor presents such a ferocious and consistent challenge to the human body and mind as war. We've been invited to embed with the Iraqi Special Forces in the Battle of Mosul. Journalists have been covering the war. We're here to focus on the soldiers and the medics that have adapted their bodies and minds to live in one of the most dangerous places on Earth.
We've arrived in April 2017, in the middle of the battle. The city is surrounded by ethnic and military-held territories. Kurdish Peshmerga to the north, Iraqi troops to the south, and areas of land held by Islamic State. Ground zero in the war is a small pocket of the old city, where thousands of Islamic State soldiers are fighting to the death. I'm to embed with Iraqi shock troops who are leading the ground war, clearing the way for others to follow. I'm invited by the commanding officer to meet the platoon.
هذا الفوج يتكون من ثلاثة فصائل سرايا. السرية الأولى القناصين، والسرية الثانية الاستطلاع، والسرية الثالثة المهام، وإحنا نسميها الفرقة التكتيكية.
Salam. Salam. Salam.
The soldiers are pleased to host us.
Salam.
For the next 10 days, I'll be assigned to one of the senior officers, Lieutenant Wahab, and the team's youngest sniper, Corporal Ahmed.
How old is he? How old?
اللقب ماله اللقب 21 سنة.
21 years old.
21.
Yes.
As the soldiers are introduced, they immediately tell me how many of the enemy they've killed.
اليومية 3 إلى 4 قناصين من الدواعش. فالقناص مربوط يعني قاتل ما يقارب 50 داعشي. اليوم استراحة.
5-0.
The numbers seem incomprehensible, almost like a disturbing competition.
Yesterday you killed 5 ISIS.
هو مقاتل فايش ما يقتل اكثر يكرمه سيد الوزير وقائد فرقه الرد السريع يكرمه على بطولته.
I want to know how the soldiers survive the constant fear and stress of staring down death each day. What they do differently from the rest of us, and what are the tools and techniques we can all use in our daily lives.
Are you scared?
لا ما يخاف يعني
ما يخاف اللي جاي قال ما يصير واحد رد سريع ويخاف رد سريع ما يخاف.
Today, their mission is to clear ISIS strongholds that have been recently retaken. It's a daily and potentially deadly exercise.
We're off to the front line and we're going in 2 Humvees. You can just feel the excitement of the soldiers. I do have a lot of adrenaline and energy running through my body, but that is mixed with a bit of doubt and anxiety. I've never traveled in a Hummer before. That one looks particularly used. I never thought in my life that I'd be racing towards the Islamic State.
The rise of the so-called Islamic State began in the power vacuum after the fall of Saddam Hussein. Now, a formidable terror machine, its radical and barbaric interpretation of Islam is designed to strike fear into anyone who doesn't share its extremist beliefs. With its command center in Mosul, my visit here comes in the middle of a battle that has been raging for over 6 months. A campaign spearheaded by the Iraqi army with air support from the US-led coalition. Even driving in an armored Humvee is extremely dangerous. It's scary to think 60 soldiers die here each week, from both sides. That's on top of the estimated 1,700 civilians who have died in the last 6 months.
We are now very close to the front line in West Mosul. The reason it's been so difficult for them to liberate is because the west side has all these narrow, winding streets, which makes it much easier for the Islamic State to hide.
We also need to be on the lookout for suicide bombers and improvised explosive devices, 2 of Islamic State's most deadly tactics.
You can just feel every corner just feels ominous.
Although 250,000 civilians have fled the city, thousands remain, and any one of them could be a suicide bomber. This puts everyone on constant alert and even makes them a little paranoid.
It's a strange feeling knowing at any moment you could be blown up or it could be a suicide bomb, not to mention the bullets that have tried to penetrate this vehicle. The other thing you noticed here is the amount of roadblocks. There's cars blocking roads everywhere. The intent is to stop suicide bombers from getting in. It's just rubble and devastation everywhere. We're now 300 meters from the front and we have a bit of an issue. The first Humvee has stopped and the Lieutenant Colonel has jumped out. This feels like a very unsafe area.
Turns out, we've arrived.
I'm gonna get out. The area we're in right now has only recently been recaptured from Islamic State. One of the things that really stood out to me with the advertising, namely they have blacked out all the faces of women. Just a reminder of who used to live here. You can hear the cannons going off around us and I feel totally exposed. I can feel my heart rate just pumping out of my chest. This is one of the most dangerous places on the planet.
These soldiers need to constantly storm buildings to ensure they're clear of the enemy tripwires and explosives. And that just adds to the daily stresses of the harsh environment, the loss of comrades, and the pressure to make life and death decisions.
These soldiers are under constant stress. In the short term, the adrenaline helps them be alert and vigilant. But long-term exposure to stress can cause serious damage to their bodies.
The increase in heart rate and blood pressure over time can create hypertension. Surges in cortisol increase cholesterol and the risk of heart attack or stroke. The disruption to digestion changes the composition of gut flora, affecting overall health. And stress hormones impact immune cells, making the body more susceptible to infections and disease. From the brain's perspective, stress is stress. War is just an intense version of it. Amazingly, studies suggest it's all in the mind. People who actually believe stress is harmful run a 40% higher risk of premature death. But for those who don't regard stress as dangerous, the likelihood of an early death is significantly lower. Therefore, rather than giving in to stress as an insurmountable threat, try to tackle it as a challenge you can manage. As for hearing, the soldiers choose not to wear earplugs as they compromise situational awareness by up to 50%. Something I'm now regretting.
Understanding stress is an interaction between four major factors: your emotional response, your thoughts, your behavior, and your immediate physical arousal. The key to managing stress, particularly under an incredibly high-pressured environment, is learning how to control and manage each of those.
Right now, my stress levels are wound up pretty high, but I'm focusing on my breath and the intense ringing in my ears from the up-close gunfire. However, things are about to get a whole lot worse. Coming up, Islamic State fires back. And later, the advantage of experience.
You just don't know where to look. There could be problems everywhere.
On my mission to understand the human body at extremes, I'm embedding with the Iraqi Special Forces in the battle against Islamic State.
This is arguably the most dangerous place on the planet right now.
Just when I think my stress response is wound to the max, it's then we actually see Islamic State shooting back, less than 200 meters away. Here they are, running across the street with bullets ricocheting off the ground. It's not just the enemy these soldiers are fighting. There's also a battle going on in their bodies.
One of the techniques the soldiers use in high-pressure situations, they use their breath to calm their body. The breath is the bridge to their nervous system, and they know that if they slow their breath down, they're able to ground themselves.
Grounding is a way to stop mental panic and thoughts spiraling out of control. And it's a technique we can all use. Simply look around and try to notice 3 new things. Feel the ground, the sound of your own breath, the color of the sky. No matter how crazy the situation is, the idea is to draw your attention back to the present moment and the fact that you're still alive. Both these techniques will help prepare you for the inevitable crash that comes after a fight or flight crisis.
I can feel an incredible adrenaline dump. I suddenly feel really, really, really tired.
That's my body's natural reaction after the surge of adrenaline is spent. After each 12-hour shift, the soldiers return to their barracks, a compound of abandoned homes just outside of Mosul.
That's light. We gotta look at it light.
My roommate is Lieutenant Wahab. He's one of the senior soldiers.
Is that where you store it?
Yes.
In the bed?
Yes.
Do you fight for your comrades?
نعم احنا ناس عسكر يعني نتميز بالانضباط نتميز بالالتزام بس موضوع القوة يعني رقم 1 لا أقول له ما دام أنت ويانا يعني اطمئن 100%. شكرا حبيبي.
The generosity towards us is overwhelming. It continues in the Lieutenant Colonel's quarters, where he serves up a huge feast.
هاي الضيافة العراقية يعني هاي من الأكلات المفضلة اللي يعني احنا نحبها.
Proper diet is critically important for a soldier in keeping their stamina and endurance up. These days, there's so much focus on the diet of the soldier because it can actually be a strategic advantage. The Iraqis eat really well.
A good diet and exercise greatly improves your ability to fight mental stress, which can be far more damaging than physical stress. After dinner, like in most households, the soldiers settle down to their devices. Except this is no light entertainment.
Yeah, kind of strange home videos. In a strange way, I think they watch these videos over and over again to help habituate to the situation, because they seem so casual about it, but it's just mass destruction here.
The pride they had in talking about their kills has now evolved into actually showing me them. This is a smartphone war, and a warning, these images are graphic. You may want to look away.
Oh, what's that? Oh, that's, okay. Oh, wow, that guy is really dead. Oh.
The soldiers' enthusiasm in this macabre show and tell is confronting.
Did you get him? Yeah. You know, yeah. That's, with the... Yeah.
Constantly revisiting their motivation is their way of staying focused on the mission.
I have to say, I haven't really seen anything like this before.
Back in my sleeping quarters, after a full day of war, the soldiers unwind with even more trigger action. Or maybe they just never switch off.
Is your family worried about you?
طبعا معركة أكيد لأن الخطورة جهاد عندك ثلاث جهات.
3 baby.
3 babies.
Yes.
But do you get scared being a soldier with 3 babies?
يعني احنا بالنسبة لنا الله طالنا إياها والله ياخذها.
All the soldiers seem to be fighting for a higher purpose and have a strange fatalism about them.
احنا مؤمنين انه اذا قتلنا استشهدنا، احنا يعني في سبيل وطننا وفي سبيل يعني شيء يستحق.
But I do wonder if their motives seem more raw than strategic.
How do you feel when you lose one of your brothers?
هي بصراحة يعني الشعور كله صعب. يعني هذا الشعور يعني كل الموجودين مرينا به. يعني الشعور صعب ومر علينا.
I hope you stay safe as well. You and all your friends. Good night.
تصبحون على خير. تصبحون على خير.
They're gonna go to war at 5 in the morning. I should get some rest.
Although I'm really tired, adrenaline is still pumping through my system. And I'm also a little unsure about the sleeping arrangements.
Just want to point out what's happening here. There's a rocket launcher, a couple of hand grenades. Jeff loves them to do this.
Don't touch it. Just put it away. Thanks. Just you and hand grenades don't go together. I am Jeff. I'm the unseen guy behind the camera, and I don't like it when he touches hand grenades at all.
I've never slept next to a rocket launcher before. I didn't really want to ask him to move it. I thought that was sort of inappropriate. I'm so tired. Oh.
After only a few hours of sleep, the soldiers are up and at it. The day shift prepares for the next mission. Their routine seems weirdly pedestrian, as if they're going to any old job, not war.
There is something strange about watching soldiers fix their hair in the mirror and make themselves look presentable for one of the most horrific experiences that a human can go through.
For soldiers, caring about their appearance is all about morale, displaying an image of control and confidence. Except this morning, the soldiers have a reason to be on edge.
وين هذا الجو؟
لا طيران ولا أي شيء ولا إيه فحتى لا شلون يركضون يزحلقون يصيدون قناص سنايبر.
We can't go with them today. We're filming something else. I feel bad leaving these soldiers.
القناصين خبروا عليكم جهزوا القناصين بس قول لي بلغ لازم واحد.
يلا سيدي. I already feel the brotherhood. I already feel the draw to be beside them. Hope everything works out. I hope everything's okay.
As it turns out, my roommate will have anything but an okay day. Coming up...
Just found out that he's been pinned down by snipers. He's meant to be back now.
And later, a very close call.
A mortar landed where we were filming 5 minutes ago and injured an Egyptian journalist. Currently, we are embedded with the Iraqi Special Forces in Mosul, which is now considered to be one of the most dangerous places on Earth.
With a break in the weather, I'm heading back to the battle, and it makes me feel sick to my stomach. And there's a scientific reason for that.
When you feel fear, the body moves blood to the core to protect the vital organs and away from the non-essential areas like the gut and the skin. But the sensory nerves in the gut notice the acute shortage of blood and give you this odd sort of queasy feeling, also known as butterflies. I certainly have butterflies now.
As we head deeper into the battle zone, the soldiers want to show me a real threat we must now face.
This is actually a suicide bomber car. It was recently captured within the last few days. It's only used for one thing, to move into the location and detonate. These are the weapons that were inside, and you can see here how they would rack them up. I mean, just the thought that someone would be in here knowing they're going to die, you have to wonder, what would be in the mindset of someone that's willing to drive a vehicle into a public place to kill as many people as possible?
This ISIS propaganda video shows one of the thousands of young men recruited for suicide bombing.
فنقول لإخوتنا خاصة في الغرب انفروا إلى الجهات وإلى دولتكم.
Well, what they do know is 2/3 of them are dependent avoidant. They have issues disobeying authority, and they will do what they're told. And the remaining third are impulsive and unstable emotionally. We also know that the major psychological coping mechanism that they use is disassociation, which actually shuts down a part of their brain. It's incredibly dark and unnerving sitting in this vehicle.
Suicide bombers are known as the ISIS Air Force. Such is the devastation they can wreak. This is our human species at its worst. Today's mission is to clear a derelict house for its potential as an Iraqi forces lookout.
They've secured this building.
زكلو منا تعال.
Oh, that dog thing really scared the crap out of me.
Ahmed, who's only 21 years old, is now looking for Islamic State fighters.
نشوف نشوف لك نكمل نظام.
We need to be as quiet as possible, and we're not allowed to place our camera near the window, should reflections reveal our position.
I think he spotted something here. My heart is totally racing. You just feel a sense of imminently something could go wrong, so you have a kind of hypervigilance. The problem with the hypervigilance is if you stay in this aroused state for a very long period of time, it will drain your body and wear you down.
However, Ahmed remains completely calm because he's not letting stress take control. As for me,
what's that?
I'm still well out of my comfort zone.
These soldiers have an amazing ability. They have an amazing ability to calm themselves down even when faced with imminent death. This lowers their arousal system, calms them down, so they burn less energy.
When we're afraid, there's a tug of war going on inside our head between logic and emotion. Normally, it's the job of our prefrontal cortex, the home of logical thought, to assess potential dangers and make effective decisions. But when we're highly stressed, the amygdala, the brain's emotional center, fires a stream of neural hormones that can freeze clear thinking. By focusing more attention on the details around them, soldiers feed the prefrontal cortex with more information, thereby drowning out any sense of panic. It's an emotional adjustment that allows soldiers like Ahmed to remain calm and in full control.
I think we're moving.
Ahmed thinks we may have been spotted.
American. We're getting out of here now. I think we understand that the Americans are sending the choppers over, so they're moving out. Okay.
دواعش هسه ثلاثة ذاك لاحظناهم قاعد يعبون ركض مجمر مضرب القناصين لازم كل طلقة بواحد ما يقدر يعالج على واحد يركض سريع.
Without sufficient backup and not wanting to be caught by friendly fire, the decision is made to retreat immediately.
That was an incredibly intense situation.
The shift is over. We return to base, where bad news awaits.
We just found out that Lieutenant Wahab he's been pinned down by snipers. He's meant to be back now. And he can't get out of there, and hopefully when it gets dark, it'll be a bit easier for him to escape. We know that a lot of people have died today by sniper fire, so we just hope he's okay.
I'm in Mosul, embedded with Iraqi Special Forces to learn how they deal with the intense stress of combat. Tonight, my roommate has failed to return. He's been pinned down by Islamic State. After an anxious 5 hours, there's news.
So glad you're back. You're okay. So what happened?
ايش صار؟ انا اليوم يعني كنت بكمين. يعني امامي عدو ويساري ايضا عدو.
The lieutenant managed to escape only when his colleagues shot 3 ISIS soldiers dead.
فلهذا احنا دائما يعني انتباه شديد والحمد لله يعني قلت لك يعني احنا يعني امكانياتنا عاليه يعني بحكم التدريب فالكمين كان تحت السيطره ومحكم عليه وما تمكن داعش نهائيا.
You must have been totally exhausted.
ما دام احنا يعني النتائج جيده اليوم وتمكنا يعني من داعش.
Well, I was worried about you, so I'm really happy you're back.
Thank you.
You can get. So he has just come out of battle with his unit and killed 3 Islamic State soldiers, and he seems completely unfazed. He's 23 years old. I'm trying to think back of what I was doing when I was 23 years old. It certainly wasn't that.
The risk of serious injury and death is ever present in the minds of the soldiers. In the past 6 months, within this small unit, 6 have been killed and 4 are missing in action, assumed to have been taken by Islamic State. That's nearly 10% of their team. It's not just the soldiers who are exposed to chronic stress. It's easy to forget about the civilians and medical crews and the dangers they face.
A cannon hit this ambulance just recently. You can see it went through. Luckily, no one was injured for this one. They're constantly under stress, anxiety, fear, and a lot of them are dying. And they're here just to help.
I've heard about a group of doctors called NYC medics who have volunteered to work in the rubble of Mosul. They're based in an abandoned house, once a stronghold of ISIS, now just outside the battle zone.
Todd, good.
Oh, positive. Can we keep you?
Yeah, you can keep it.
No, we're going to use your blood.
Dr. Cornelius Peoples, better known as Woody, has been stationed here for 2 weeks.
I'm an emergency physician, and I work in the United States, but I see a need in certain places for a skill set that I have. And so there's a need to give back in a bunch of ways. There's also a need to be seen as an American here helping, because Americans are perceived here in a negative way. To change that even a little, that may be more useful than all the medical care I do.
Woody, like other volunteers, finds himself in the most extreme emergency room in the world.
This is incredibly hard to watch. He's got a bullet in his arm. He's in extreme pain.
We're getting some morphine.
The medics operate what's known as a trauma stabilization point. The idea is to treat patients as close to the front line as possible inside the critical golden hour.
I don't know how they do it. This screaming, that just makes me feel sick.
The secret is being able to see the forest through the trees. So people who can recognize the critically ill patients from the non-critically ill patients, they can recognize the ugly, horrifying wound from the life-threatening wound. Those are the people that you look for.
Hey, can I get 4 sets of hands, please?
In less than 20 minutes, the soldier is stabilized and sent onwards for surgery to repair his smashed arm.
Not everybody is made to look at blown up people and just be able to tolerate it. And so I'm really lucky to have these people working with me who can do that.
The medics also need nerves of steel, because literally just outside their walls is this.
Does this become, like, as we're talking, I can hear the gunfire going off in the background. Does it become normal for you? Or?
It's not normal. None of it's normal. I see little tiny children on the street who can hear automatic weapons fire from less than 100 meters away. It's deafeningly loud, and not even stop licking their lollipops. You know, it's insane. And it's one of the reasons they're killed, because they have no fear response to it anymore.
Wow.
Coming up, it's battle stations at the New York Medics.
Wow. That felt really close.
I'm exploring the science of human resilience with the New York Medics, stationed just outside the battle zone of Mosul.
A number of Iraqi federal police come in. They've been hit by a mortar. There's eye wound, leg wound, looks like chest wound as well.
Whether you're a hectic, stressed out parent or a combat medic, the effects of stress are the same. A neurohormone called cortisol spikes in the prefrontal cortex, which can jam our ability to think clearly. And it's one of the reasons why trauma stations work to an established decision-making protocol.
The medics have a triage system, which is green, yellow, red. Green means okay, stabilized. Yellow means need to get to a hospital within 6 hours. And red means emergency, need to be stabilized now within an hour. This system allows them to have a common language and allows them to make decisions while lives are on the line. What about the adrenaline? Because you would imagine your hands would become less steady as you're pumping with adrenaline.
It's true, and it's especially true if you're doing a procedure that you're not entirely comfortable with. So you train and train and train so that it becomes sort of a subcortical thing. If you have to think through each little detail of the procedure under stress, you're going to fail.
Everybody inside, it's like the duck, right? With the feet going like this.
Yes.
Everybody's doing that inside, but it doesn't help anybody in this room if I'm expressing that on my exterior. Can you make a fist around my finger, squeeze it? Okay, good.
But do you have any techniques that you use specifically to calm you down in an emergency response?
You got to stop, look at what you got, take a deep breath, and then just go forward. So, I've been doing this for a while, so I think it becomes almost instinctively to me, and I don't think about it.
Does that sound like a low-flying helicopter to you?
Yeah, it is. We get very used to this, so.
What do you get scared?
Everybody gets scared. You can't deny that it's a frightful place. There are bullets that fly by all the time. There are mortar rounds that land in the front yard. The bombs go off all night long, and you can't deny that there is some level of fear. Anytime you can find something funny and laugh at it, immediately you can crush the fear. You can break it like you're breaking a glass window.
Humor releases a shot of feel-good endorphins to the brain, and it's an age-old distraction technique.
A mortar landed where we were filming 5 minutes ago and injured an Egyptian journalist. That was another reality check.
I'm just taking a look here, okay?
Oh, that's scary.
One of the many things I respect about the New York medics is they treat everyone, including ISIS.
I'm not a combatant. I'm not here to extract information from people. I'm here to relieve suffering.
I'm not certain how I feel about that experience. On the one hand, I'm inspired by how selfless they are in helping others. And on the other hand, it's a terrifying reminder of the devastation of war.
With only one day to go before I leave, I join the soldiers as they search for more enemy sniper positions.
We can't actually go any further. This is what's referred to as Sniper Alley. We're pretty much stuck with ISIS down that end, and we have to stay up this end. They won't even take the Humvees there, because the danger's too high. That certainly got the heart rate going.
One thing I notice about the soldiers is their super fast response times. And that also has to do with the trick of the brain. When you and I are confronted with danger, our prefrontal cortex tries to work on an action plan, assessing what the threat is and how it could harm us. At the same time, the hippocampus automatically cycles through stored memories, looking for similar past experiences and how we responded. Then, by comparing the present danger to the past, the brain finally instructs our body how to act. But soldiers' brains work differently. They have the ability to sift through memories much faster. The more experienced the soldier, the larger their memory bank, and the more accurate their response will be. People call this acting on gut instinct, but it's actually the amazing filing skills of the hippocampus.
There's a whole bunch of things to watch out for here. The IEDs on the ground. There's sniper fire over on the left. Sniper Alley is just here. I can tell you now, the stress levels are going through the roof. I feel... Jesus.
هاي يا كريم. لا هاي كم هاي كم. اوكي انسحاب. انسحاب تكتيكي انسحاب تكتيكي.
We gotta go.
Under fire from an unknown source, the decision is made to pull out.
Well, that certainly was a thrilling and scary experience. It's madness to think this is something they do every day in 12-hour shifts.
Next, the reality of war hits home.
And he said he held him until he died.
After 10 days embedded with Iraqi Special Forces, the daily rhythm of eating, sleeping, and combat now seems familiar. If it weren't for the constant sound of distant attack helicopters, this scene would almost be tranquil. As much as these soldiers work to reduce their stress, no one can escape the ugly reality of war. The fight for Mosul will likely haunt these men for years to come.
We just arrived and heard some terrible news that one of the soldiers was just killed this morning in an ambush. It's a really sad time, actually. And I know it's expected that people die in a war, but it doesn't make it any easier.
Muhammad was just 27 years old.
I'm sorry. I came here expecting death. I didn't come here expecting brotherhood. I certainly didn't expect both. No one wins in war.
أخوان هو هنيئا إلى يعني نال الشهادة وأنتم طيبين إن شاء الله. هو أخونا وابننا وعزيز علينا بس هو هذا يوم أجله يعني اليوم يعني انتهى.
The sniper's partner and best friend held him until he died. He's just returned from washing the blood off his uniform.
We've only been here a short time, but I feel like we've lost a brother as well.
أشكرك، أنا شاكر اهتمامك وتعزيتك ولطفك ويانا. فعلا عائلة وإحنا صرنا.
What kind of a person, what kind of a man was he?
هو كان شجاعته لا توصف. إنسان وطني وشجاع ومحبوب بنفس الوقت. كان قناص جيد.
We just missed it on point. I think I shot.
هو أكيد شهيد. Thank you.
Thank you. I can only imagine how he feels. But it seems like such a waste. And he said he held him until he died. It's awful.
In the midst of the grieving, the lieutenant colonel gets a call.
طلع من وادي عقاب على حي التنك حاليا من قرب سوق معاش. لا ما عنده المصدر مالنا ما عنده يقول حاليا يتوجه يمشي بسرعه فائقه. قرب سوق المعاش بحي التنك حاليا متوجه على قوة الذهبية.
The soldiers have been called back to the front line. They need to leave immediately. Their anger with ISIS is now recharged. The soldiers are intent on avenging their brother's death. It's like a ripple of hatred has spread throughout the unit. And so the business of war rolls on.
War would have to be one of the most brutal, horrific things for anyone to experience. Yet it's astounding how the human body is able to adapt even to this hostile environment. This experience has been a contrast of worlds to me. On the one hand, I've been surrounded by violence, destruction, and death. And on the other hand, I've been surrounded by love and camaraderie and warmth. I'm not certain when this war will end, but I hope optimistically that they will get to experience something that I've certainly taken for granted: peace.
Next time on Body Hack, I will explore the remarkable ways we make sense of the world.
It's crazy that we're going to go in the blackness of night.
I'm to live with a remote Amazonian tribe whose ritualistic use of a frog poison is said to give them superhuman powers.
Look, they're gone. Look how fast they leave you.
But when I try, things don't go to plan.
I feel really sick to my stomach. It's too much?
Yeah, it's too much.
Your thoughts, your immediate physical arousal. The key to managing stress, particularly under an incredibly high-pressured environment, your behavior